Hello there students and welcome back to another video from your favorite English school, English Solutions for Business and Life. Today we're going to be covering Unit 10 for us pre-intermediate students, and where we'll be covering the grammar of our book Market Leader, Unit 10. Okay, let's begin. Today we'll be talking about mostly reported speech. Okay, I need you to pay a lot of attention in this one, and this video will be a little bit more, a little bit longer than usual. So you can watch it in two sections, make your notes, and then watch it, watch the rest later. Or you can watch everything and take notes, whatever it is easier for you. An example of reported speech. Let's say that a person, a woman, told us in the past, I went to a great place last month. Okay, that is the original sentence. You want to report it, we tell another friend or another person we know, say, she told me she'd gone to a great place the previous month. Okay, well, I'm going to explain in detail every part of how we do this, and in the correct order we do it too. Let's move on. Some notes before starting. Well, reported speech takes some practice. It is important that you practice it many times, and it will take even more practice to start using it correctly and naturally in a conversation. Don't worry, this is normal, and you will probably make a lot of mistakes in the beginning, but we always learn by making mistakes. Another thing to pay attention to, pay attention to the pronoun we're using. He, she, it. This is a very common mistake we make when using reported speech. We change or we don't change the pronoun properly. Also pay attention to verb changes. Most of the times when you report, you have to change the original verb. I will explain this later on. So pay attention to the pronoun and the verb changes. And it is always correct to use it. What do I mean by this? There are different ways you can report something. You can just repeat exactly what the person said, but that's not very natural. If you want to use correct reporting, you have to follow the steps that I have here. In some cases, it is also correct not to use reported speech, especially when the situation is very recent. But we are going to talk about that later on, in another unit perhaps. Okay, reported verbs. So we have said, we have said, told, asked. We have others that we don't use as much: mention, explain, state. The ones we will be concentrating more is said, told, and asked. Notice that I'm putting them in simple present form, just like a reminder. Another important thing is that when you asked, we use asked, the grammar changes. We will also talk about this later on. Okay, now there's a big difference between the verb said or say and tell or told in the past. When we use say, we do not mention the listener. A very common mistake that people make is say me or say him. That is absolutely incorrect. So don't even write it down. Do not use that. So the listener, the person who listens to the information or listened to the information, is not mentioned. However, when we use the word tell, or in this case told, we have to use a listener. Told me, told him, told us, etc. So make good notes of this. This is important. Okay, now example, we have she said she was sick. Okay, as you can see in this example, we are not saying who received the information. We don't know. On the second one, though, she told me she was sick. Me was the person who listened. I am the listener of the original sentence. So that's how said and told work. Now, when we report information, it is very important to pay attention to the tense changes. This is something that we always have to do in the beginning, and like I was telling you, in the future, you can play around with the tenses, but right now it is very important that you always change the tense. Okay, now if the original sentence is in present, we want it to change to past. If it is in past, we're going to use the past perfect. If the original sentence is already in past perfect, we're not going to change it in that case. We're just going to continue using past perfect. If we have present continuous, we're going to use past continuous. If we have past continuous, we're going to use past perfect continuous. The same is as if the original sentence is already in past perfect continuous, we don't change it. Can changes to could doesn't change, it stays the same. Will changes to would doesn't change. May changes to might, and of course might doesn't change either. Have to changes to had to, and had to stays the same most of the times. Should does not have any change either. One thing that you might want to do is have a copy of this list when you practice, because it's easy to forget. It probably looks like a lot of information, so it is important to have a copy of the list. You can ask your teacher to provide you with a copy, or maybe a more extent copy of the changes in tenses when using reported speech. Okay, now the formula for reporting a sentence. Now let's say that somebody tells us, I'm happy, okay? And later on, we make a comment to another person, we report to another person what we heard. Now the formula is very simple. We are going to use the reporting expression and the subject and the reported information. This one already has the tense change, the one we talked about. Tense change. Well, I'm having trouble writing. Okay, and the result is, she told me, that is our reporting expression. She, that is our subject, and was happy. Happy, that's our reporting information. I'm happy, present, was happy, past. You see, it is quite easy. However, like I was telling you, in order to use it in a conversation, this may take a little while. But be patient and practice. We have some examples. We will end your contract. A little rough, a little harsh. If we want to report this, we say, they said they would end my contract. Okay? Notice, let me use the right colors here. We have the reporting expression. We have our subject, and we have the reported information. The original is will end your contract. The reported information is would end your contract, because will changes to would. Pretty simple, huh? Now, the next one. We are considering buying a new building. Now, this is the original sentence. I forgot to put it in quotation marks, just to make sure we understand it's the original sentence. We're going to report. Let's say that some people told me, so we're going to use the expression told me. So we have our reporting expression, they told me. Then we have our subject, they, and the reported information. We're considering buying a new building. Why were? Because in the original sentence we have are considering. We're considering buying a new building. So you notice that the formula does not change. It stays the same, and you should make notes of that. Another example, he must go to Europe next month. Now, we have our reporting expression, they said. We have our subject, he, And then we have our reported information. Must go to Europe the following month. Okay. Now, must is special sometimes because we can also report it with had to. Must doesn't really have a past form, so we can use had to. We can say they said he had to go to Europe the following month. Notice that we changed the expression the next month, the following month. This depends on exactly when we are reporting. For example, if this information that we heard 2 days ago, we can report saying they said he must go to Europe the next month, or sorry, next month, because we're still in time. We're still, next month is still next month. But let's say that we report this 5 months ago, 5 months later than the original sentence was said or mentioned. That being the case, we would have to use the following month. Why? Because next month is no longer next month. It's the following month. It's a long time in the past. All right, let's move on. Now, reporting questions. Reporting questions, when you report one, there are a lot of things you have to pay attention to. The first thing we have to ask ourselves is it a yes/no question or is it an information question? Okay, if so, if it's a yes/no question, we're going to use two expressions. We're going to use if and we're going to use whether. Whether being a little more formal than if. And if it's a question word, it is a question word question, we're going to use exactly the same question word we use in the original question or original sentence. This time around, we're going to look at yes/no question. Are you sad? Okay. Now the formula is as follows. We have 4 parts. We have the reporting expression for questions, which is asked. Yes. We're going to use if or whether if it's a yes/no question. In this case, it's a yes/no question. So we can use if or we can use whether. And if we're using question words, we're going to use that question word. Then we have our subject, and finally we have the verb. Remember that the verb is the reported tense type. Yes, we're going to also change the tense of our verb. Notice that this time around, when we report a question, we don't use the grammar or the formula for questions. The result is as follows. Reporting expression, you asked whether, because it's a yes/no question, subject I was happy. Oh, actually it was not was happy. I was thinking about the first example. Was sad. The result is you asked whether I was sad. Okay, we followed exactly the same formula I just mentioned. We changed the tense, we used the correct order, and we used the correct expression here. Now with questions, there's something that I need to make note of. In this time around, when reporting questions, you can or you have the option of not mentioning the listener. You can say she asked or she asked me. Doesn't matter. It depends on what you actually want to say. We're going to report now the question, can I help you with that? Okay. Now we have our reporting expression, she asked or she asked me. Let me use the correct colors. You asked or you asked me. We have, let's erase that a little bit. Also, we have the expression if, because it's a yes/no question. And then we have our subject, she, and the reported information. Could help me with that. Why? Because can changes to could. Okay, the result is she asked me if she could help me with that. Or she asked if she could help me with that. Another question, where are you right now? Okay, this is an information question, so we have the result is he asked her where she was then. Okay, we have our reporting expression, he asked or he asked her. We use the question word of the original question, where. We have the subject, she, and we finally have the reported information, was then. Present in the original, past in the reported. Time expression in the original, reported time expression. This moment, that moment. Just to make clear. Another example, why haven't you finished? Okay, now we have the reporting expression. He asked, or he asked her. We have the question word in the original sentence, why. We have the subject, actually should be blue. Have the subject and we have the reported information. Hadn't finished. The original sentence is in present perfect. The reported has to be in past perfect. I don't think I mentioned that before. Present perfect, it changes to past perfect, just as past changes to past perfect. All right. I hope that it was useful. There's an important note we have to remember. Reported speech will take some practice. Always push yourself to using harder grammar. Something that will happen eventually with your English is that you will only stick with the grammar that you can use well. And the bad thing about doing that is that your English will not be very advanced. It will not be very varied. So always push yourself to using difficult grammar or things that you are not too comfortable with. If you do that, you will eventually master it and your English will become much better. I promise you, this is a guarantee. Once again, thank you very much for watching. See you on our next video. Bye-bye.